When nothing works, be silent. Because in that stillness, everything begins to move. Maybe you've tried everything, hustling harder, chasing answers, pushing through the noise. But the more you fight, the more everything slips through your fingers. The stress grows, the clarity fades, and you're left asking one quiet question. What now? This is where true transformation begins. Not in more doing, but in learning how to be still. In a world obsessed with control, silence becomes your secret weapon. It anchors you in presence, aligns your mind with power, and unlocks a deeper current of wisdom most people never access. Because silence isn't passive, it's active stillness. It's where the mind stops reacting and starts receiving. When you align your vibration with what you seek, in silence, you stop chasing and start attracting. That's not theory, that's frequency. This video will take you beyond the noise. You'll learn how to quiet your mind, listen with your entire being, and let clarity, purpose, and abundance flow to you, not by force, but by resonance. You're not the only one who feels overwhelmed, lost, or stuck, but you don't have to stay there. What you seek isn't far. It's just waiting for you to finally be still enough to let it in. Stay with me. The next few minutes might shift something deeper than motivation. It might realign you with the power you've had all along. This is Stoic wisdom, rewired for the modern world. 1. Manifestation through vibrational stillness. Everything you desire is already moving toward you, but it can't find you in chaos. It can't reach you when your mind is racing, your energy scattered, and your presence absent. That's the truth most people never hear, because they're too loud to notice. In a world where everyone is told to chase harder, grind louder, and speak more, the one who becomes still becomes magnetic. This isn't about passivity. This is about alignment. And in the philosophy of Stoicism, that alignment begins with the self. You don't manifest by craving. You manifest by becoming. By vibrating on the same frequency as what you seek, peace, clarity, strength, you draw it into your life without shouting for it. The Stoics knew this before the word manifestation was ever coined. Epictetus didn't say visualize and attract. He said, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. But before any doing, there must be being. And to truly be, you must be still. Stillness isn't the absence of effort. It's the presence of power. It's choosing not to let the external world dictate your internal rhythm. That's not laziness. That's mental discipline. When you silence the noise outside, you give your inner compass room to guide you. Not based on fear, not based on need, but based on truth. And truth never rushes. It stands still and waits for you to arrive. The reason most people never receive what they want is not because they're not working hard enough. It's because their energy contradicts their intention. They ask for peace, but live in urgency. They crave clarity, but never pause long enough to let it form. That dissonance creates resistance. That's why nothing flows. That's why nothing works. Because what you send out vibrationally is stronger than what you say with words. And your energy speaks louder in silence than anything else. So how do you shift into vibrational stillness? You begin by doing the one thing most men fear: stopping. Stop trying to figure it all out. Stop planning 5 moves ahead. Stop overthinking what hasn't happened. And instead sit. Sit with your breath. Sit with your discomfort. Sit with your doubt without fighting it. Let the stillness grow bigger than your fear. Let it quiet the mind, not by force, but by space. There is power in choosing not to react. There is strength in waiting, not as avoidance, but as awareness. The Stoics practiced this daily. Marcus Aurelius faced war, betrayal, and the burden of an empire. But he didn't rush. He wrote. He reflected. He trained his mind to remain unmoved by chaos. That's not weakness. That's mastery. And yes, your mind will resist this at first. It will tell you to get up, to move, to act now. That's the conditioning of a distracted world. But the greatest breakthroughs come after the noise subsides. When you learn to sit longer than your fear, longer than your anxiety, longer than your ego's need to prove something, you begin to vibrate at a different level. You stop chasing, and things begin to come to you, not because you wished for them, but because you became a match for them. That's what vibrational stillness is. Not waiting passively for life to happen, but becoming still enough to let life find you. It's not a trick, it's a frequency, and when your presence becomes strong enough, the world bends to meet it. So the next time you feel lost, overwhelmed, or uncertain, Don't move, don't scroll, don't speak. Just stop, breathe. Listen to the silence inside you. That's where everything you've been trying to create already exists, waiting for you to tune in. Because the man who is still is the man who is ready, ready to receive, ready to respond, ready to rise, not out of panic but from presence. And presence, when paired with clarity, becomes the most powerful form of action. Be silent. Let your energy speak. Let your stillness become the message. And everything you've been trying to force will begin to flow. 2. Stillness awakens intuition and attracts opportunities. If you are disturbed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. Marcus Aurelius. We've been told that success belongs to those who never stop moving. That if you just keep grinding, keep chasing, keep talking, you'll eventually get there. But the Stoics knew a different truth. When the mind is loud, wisdom is silent. When the body is restless, clarity hides. The very thing you're pushing toward may be standing right in front of you, but without stillness, you're blind to it. The truth is, most people don't miss opportunities because they lack talent. They miss them because they can't hear them whisper. Intuition doesn't shout. It doesn't compete with the chaos. It waits, quietly, patiently, until you finally get quiet enough to listen. Stillness is not weakness. It's awareness. It's the place where your instincts sharpen and your mind shifts from reactive to receptive. The Stoics trained for this, not through noise, but through presence. Seneca didn't wait for perfect conditions. He practiced calm daily, so when storms came, he could sense what others missed. And in modern life, this still applies. If your schedule is full but your soul is empty, you've missed the point. If you're always reacting, you've lost your position of strength. Stoicism teaches us to hold the inner line, to become immovable inside, even as the outside world changes. That inner silence, that unwavering presence, is what calls the right doors to open. There's something powerful that happens when you stop demanding and start aligning. The right people, the right timing, the right insight, they don't show up when you chase them. They appear when you become the version of yourself that's ready to receive. That version doesn't panic, doesn't prove, doesn't run. It waits, it watches, it listens. In stillness, you're not giving up control. You're shifting your energy from force to flow, from noise to knowing, from tension to timing. And that shift is what turns a moment of quiet into a moment of breakthrough. But here's the catch. Most men aren't comfortable in silence. It exposes them. It strips away distraction. It forces them to sit with their own uncertainty, their own fears, their own lack of clarity. That's why the world keeps shouting, because noise numbs, but silence sharpens. And if you're willing to stay with it, something unexpected happens. You begin to sense what's next without needing proof. You begin to feel the right move before it's obvious. That's not magic. That's intuition, reawakened through presence. It's a skill, a muscle, one you train not by effort, but by stillness. So how do you apply this? Start with 5 minutes a day. No phone, no plan. Just sit. Feel your breath. Feel your surroundings. When your mind starts racing, let it. Don't chase the thoughts. Don't analyze. Just return to your breath. That's it. It won't feel profound at first, but stay with it. Over time, that silence becomes sharper than any strategy. You'll begin to notice things others miss. You'll respond instead of react. You'll begin to sense the right moment, rather than forcing any moment. That's power. That's clarity. That's the still strength the Stoics lived by. In the end, what you're truly looking for isn't out there. It's within. Beneath the layers of overthinking, urgency, and noise, there's a still, quiet intelligence waiting to guide you. Not with volume, but with vision. And once you reconnect to that, you won't need to chase opportunity. It will start to recognize you. Because the man who learns to be still becomes the man who sees everything. 3. Real guidance comes in whispers, not shouts. The answers you seek aren't hiding, they're whispering. The problem is, most people can't hear them. Not because they don't exist, but because they're buried under too much noise. Noise from the outside world, noise from their own mind. Constant scrolling, constant planning, constant comparison. Every second of distraction makes the signal weaker, until eventually they stop trusting themselves altogether. That's the price of never being still. Real guidance isn't loud. It's not dramatic. It doesn't argue for your attention or demand you follow it. It arrives softly, quiet, steady, and unwavering. And to hear it, you don't need more information. You need less interference. In Stoic philosophy, that inner whisper is the voice of Logos, the rational order of the universe, always present, always guiding. But like a compass buried in static, it needs silence to function. You can't access that guidance when your thoughts are bouncing in 5 directions, fueled by fear, urgency, or ego. It takes courage to stop searching outside and start listening inside. Because silence is not empty. Silence reflects. It shows you things you've been avoiding, things you've drowned out with busyness, but it also shows you the path, the next move, the truth beneath the noise. When you sit long enough with that silence, you begin to hear something surprising. Clarity, not from logic, not from books, but from your own presence. And that kind of clarity changes the way you live, decide, and respond. I remember someone who used to live by noise. His name is Evander. Smart, ambitious, restless. He moved fast, always had a plan, always had 10 tabs open in his head. He read every strategy book, listened to podcasts at double speed, never missed a morning routine. But the more he consumed, the less certain he became. He couldn't hear himself anymore. Everything became secondhand, even his decisions. And when life pushed back, when business went sideways and relationships cracked, his instinct was to do more, push harder, hustle louder. But it only made things worse, until one day, something in him broke. Not loudly, quietly. He just stopped. No podcast, no planner, no checklist. He sat on his back porch and did nothing for an hour. Then the next day, then again. The first week felt unbearable, like failure, like wasting time. But something was shifting, without effort, without input. His mind stopped running and started listening. And in that stillness, what came wasn't a new strategy, it was something simpler. He remembered what actually mattered, what he actually wanted, what he'd been afraid to admit beneath all the noise. He started moving differently. Less urgency, more awareness. Less forcing, more following. Not inaction, just intentional action. Within 6 months, his life didn't just look different. It felt different. He wasn't chasing anymore. He was responding, and people around him noticed. Clients trusted him more. His team felt safer. His presence had changed, and it all began in silence. That's what happens when you stop needing your answers to be loud. You give space for the real ones to show up. You start recognizing patterns, subtle shifts. You sense when something feels off, even if you can't explain it. You begin to lead from your center, not from external pressure. And that's what separates the Stoic mind from the reactive one. The Stoic doesn't move because of noise. He waits for the signal. And when it comes, he acts with calm, conviction, and clarity. Try it. Not someday, today. Turn everything off for just 5 minutes. No questions, no expectations. Just sit. Let your mind empty. Let it settle. What rises after the silence is what matters. Not what's urgent. Not what's popular. What's true? The wisest decisions in life don't shout for your attention. They wait for your attention to settle. And when it does, the guidance you've been searching for appears. Not from outside, but from a place you forgot existed. Trust it, that still, quiet voice, because it's never steered you wrong. You just haven't stayed still long enough to hear what it's been trying to tell you. For presence is power. Silence anchors you in the now. You don't need more time, you need more presence. Most people think they're running out of hours, but what they're really running out of is attention. Their minds are fractured, half stuck in yesterday's regrets, half trapped in tomorrow's anxieties. They're everywhere but here, and that's why nothing feels steady. That's why life slips through their fingers even as they try to control it. Because without presence, power becomes an illusion. Stoicism reminds us that the present moment is the only domain we truly own. Not the past, it's gone. Not the future, it's uncertain. But now is all we ever really have. And the mind that can stay anchored in now, even while the world spins in chaos, is a mind that cannot be defeated. It's not about being passive, it's about being precise. The Stoic doesn't act impulsively. He acts with intention, grounded in what's real, not what's imagined. Silence is what brings you back to now. When you get quiet, you stop spiraling. You stop reliving conversations that already ended. You stop rehearsing problems that haven't happened yet. You reclaim your mind from distraction. You return to your breath, your body, this moment. And suddenly, the pressure fades. Not because the situation changed, but because you did. When you learn to sit in silence, you begin to see clearly. Not through the lens of fear or doubt, but through direct experience. That clarity isn't just peace, it's power. Because it gives you the space to choose your response rather than react out of habit. That's what separates strength from weakness. And in the Stoic mind, reaction is the enemy of discipline. Try this. The next time something goes wrong, don't speak, don't act. Take one breath. Let the emotion pass without giving it a name. Then look at the moment with neutral eyes. Ask, what is in my control right now? That question alone can change the outcome. Not because you fixed everything, but because you stopped giving power to things that never deserved it. Most people think presence is something soft, like mindfulness or being calm, but presence is also razor sharp. It's the edge that cuts through confusion. It's what keeps you locked in while others spiral. It's how you stay focused when distractions rise. And it's how you hold your ground when the storm comes, without flinching, without running. The truth is, most suffering isn't caused by what's happening. It's caused by the story we tell ourselves about what's happening. And those stories grow louder the further we drift from the present. But when you return, when you strip away the story and face only what is, you find that most problems shrink, most fears dissolve, most decisions become obvious. That's the power of presence, not in theory, in practice. And silence is how you sharpen that presence. Not once a year, not once a month, every day. 5 minutes of stillness, 3 conscious breaths, a pause before the reaction. These aren't spiritual tricks, they're survival tools in a noisy, anxious world, and they belong to anyone willing to slow down long enough to claim them. Because when you stop being everywhere, you start being effective somewhere. When you stop arguing with the past or bargaining with the future, you begin to move with clarity. And when you stop trying to escape this moment, you unlock the only place where transformation can happen. So if you're lost, come back to now. If you're overwhelmed, come back to breath. If you're afraid, come back to stillness. Because the present is not just a place, it's a weapon. And silence is how you wield it. 5. Daily ritual of breath awareness builds inner clarity. Clarity doesn't come from thinking harder. It comes from breathing deeper. Most people try to solve mental chaos with more mental noise. They overanalyze, they loop through scenarios, they chase solutions outside themselves, while ignoring the one tool that's been with them since birth: breath. Your breath is not just a function of survival. It's a portal back to yourself. And when you learn to use it with intention, it becomes one of the most powerful tools for focus, self-discipline, and emotional resilience. In Stoic philosophy, clarity is everything. Without it, your actions become reactive, your choices become rushed, and your peace becomes temporary, fragile, easily stolen by the first trigger of the day. But clarity doesn't just appear. It has to be created. It has to be trained. And breath awareness is how you do it. It grounds the mind. It interrupts the spiral. It shifts your nervous system from survival mode into presence. That's not meditation, that's mastery. One of the most overlooked facts about breath is its direct link to your emotional state. Shallow breathing, that's anxiety. Short, uneven breathing, that's tension. But deep, slow, rhythmic breathing, that's calm, that's control. That's how you take the wheel back when the world tries to hijack your focus. And you don't need an hour a day to do it. You need 3 minutes. 5 if you're serious. No fancy cushions, no incense, just silence, stillness, and air. The beauty of breath work is that it's immediate. The effect is felt in seconds. And unlike motivation, you don't have to wait for it to arrive. You create it on demand. That's how warriors train under pressure. That's how Stoics held their ground under chaos. Because when others lose themselves in emotion, the disciplined man returns to breath. Every inhale is a chance to reset. Every exhale is a chance to let go. Try this. Before your day begins, before the noise starts, sit. Sit with no agenda, no goal but awareness. Breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4, exhale for 6. Do that for 5 minutes. Watch how your mind starts to slow down. Watch how your thoughts separate from you. That's the space where clarity lives. Not in the rush, in the gap, between inhale and exhale. That's the entry point to a calmer, more focused version of yourself. And when you face resistance, which you will, remember this: the breath doesn't lie. If your breath is tight, your body is tense. If your breath is fast, your mind is scattered. But if your breath is steady, your presence is sharp. That's how you measure yourself. Not by what you say, but by how you breathe when things go wrong. Anyone can stay calm when life is easy, but the man who can breathe through difficulty, that's the one who wins without shouting. Stoicism doesn't ask you to deny emotions, it teaches you to navigate them. Breath is your compass. It's how you ride the waves without being pulled under. And with repetition, breath awareness becomes your new default. Not just in silence, but in meetings, arguments, stress, and doubt. It becomes your anchor, your edge, your advantage. Because in the moments where others react blindly, you respond wisely. Not because you're better, but because you're present. Not because you don't feel pressure, but because you refuse to let it control you. And breath is what makes that possible. It connects you to your body, to the now, to the part of you that doesn't panic, doesn't quit, doesn't forget who you are under fire. So if your mind feels cluttered, don't add more noise. Don't reach for a screen, don't escape. Just breathe. Sit with yourself. Build that ritual like a warrior builds his blade. Daily, deliberately, without excuse. Because the world will keep throwing chaos your way. But if you train your breath, you'll meet that chaos with clarity. And clarity, when held in silence, becomes unstoppable. 6. Transcend fear and overthinking with stillness. Fear doesn't live in the present. It lives in projections. It feeds on what if and what could go wrong. It grows louder every time your mind spirals beyond this moment. And the more you think, the more it spreads. Because fear doesn't need facts to survive. It only needs your attention. But here's what most people never realize. The fastest way to shrink fear is not to fight it, but to stop feeding it. And that begins with stillness. Overthinking is a survival instinct gone rogue. Your brain, trying to protect you, replays old mistakes and rehearses future failures as if preparing will prevent pain. But in doing so, it paralyzes action. You freeze, not because you're weak, but because your mind is too loud to move. Stoicism gives us a way out, not by forcing courage, but by disciplining our response. It teaches us to separate what we control from what we don't. And that separation only becomes clear when the noise dies down. Stillness creates that silence. In the space between one breath and the next, you get a glimpse of something deeper than fear. Awareness. And awareness is the only antidote to blind reaction. You don't need to conquer your fear, you just need to observe it without being consumed. When you sit quietly, you begin to see fear for what it is: thought, energy, movement in the mind. And anything you can observe, you no longer have to obey. That's not abstract philosophy. That's something I watched happen in real time. My friend Noah lived in a state of constant mental warfare. Smart, ambitious, always pushing. But behind the surface, he was trapped, constantly questioning himself, rehearsing every outcome, paralyzed by choices. It wasn't that he didn't know what to do. It's that he couldn't trust himself to do it. Fear had hijacked his clarity, and overthinking had become his addiction. The more he tried to control life, the more it controlled him. He tried to outwork it. Burnout followed. He tried to analyze it. Paralysis deepened. One night, after a particularly bad week, he sat on the floor, turned off the lights, and did nothing. Not as a strategy, out of exhaustion, but something happened in that darkness. The thoughts kept coming, but he stopped chasing them. The fear kept whispering, but he stopped answering. For the first time, he didn't fight his mind. He watched it, and the watching changed everything. He started building that moment into a ritual. 10 minutes of nothing each morning. No thinking, no journaling, no fixing. Just stillness. At first, the chaos got louder, but then it began to break apart. The fear didn't vanish, it just stopped being a threat. He could see it, label it, breathe through it. And when he stopped reacting, he started moving. Not impulsively, intentionally. His confidence didn't come from proving anything. It came from presence. Now, when things go sideways, and they still do, he doesn't spiral. He pauses, breathes, waits. He no longer tries to outthink fear. He lets it speak, then lets it go. That's real power. The Stoics would call that ataraxia, a state of inner peace undisturbed by external chaos. It's not immunity to fear, it's immunity to its control. And you can't build that by talking yourself out of emotion. You build it by training your mind to return to silence. Start small. 3 minutes in the morning. Sit, breathe. Let the anxiety pass like a storm over water. Don't fix it. Don't name it. Just notice. Your mind will scream for distraction. That's normal. But every second you stay, you're reclaiming territory. You're teaching your nervous system that presence is safe, that stillness isn't failure, that you don't need more thoughts to solve the problem. You need fewer. When fear visits, meet it with space. When doubt rises, answer with stillness. You are not the voice in your head. You are the one who listens. And when the listening becomes clear, fear no longer has a home. It dissolves, because it was never stronger than your presence, just louder. And the truth is, life doesn't reward the most anxious, it rewards the most aligned. Be still long enough, and you'll stop fearing the unknown. You'll start trusting your capacity to meet it. 7. Listening with the whole being reveals truth. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we may listen twice as much as we speak. Zeno of Citium. You don't learn by speaking, you learn by listening, not just to words, but to what exists beneath them. Most people hear noise, very few hear truth. Because real listening doesn't begin with the ears, it begins with presence. And presence requires stillness. In a distracted world, listening is no longer natural, it's a discipline. But those who master it gain something rare, insight that others miss. When you listen without interrupting, without judging, without planning your response, you start noticing things others can't. The tension behind a smile, the hesitation in someone's voice, the gap between what's said and what's meant. These are not guesses. They're signals, but you need a calm, clear mind to catch them. That's why silence is more than absence of sound. It's the foundation of perception. In Stoicism, this type of inner silence allows the mind to engage with the world without distortion. It removes assumptions, filters, and emotional bias, so what's left is clarity. Unfiltered, honest, direct. You begin to hear the energy behind the words. You begin to sense intention. This kind of listening is an act of power. Not passive, but profoundly active. It sharpens your awareness in conversations, in conflict, in moments of decision. It makes you a better leader, a more intuitive partner, a more resilient man. Because the one who listens well can adapt, diffuse tension, predict outcomes, and most importantly, respond with wisdom instead of reaction. But this can only happen when your mind is not already full. You can't listen deeply if your internal voice is louder than the one in front of you. If you're thinking about your next point or defending your ego, you're not truly present. You're not connected, and that disconnection is costly. Misunderstood relationships, missed opportunities, repeated mistakes. In contrast, when you slow down, breathe, and fully enter the moment, you become a mirror. Others feel heard, walls come down, and often the truth reveals itself without force. You don't need to be the smartest voice in the room. You need to be the clearest receiver. That's what makes the Stoic powerful. Not by volume, by vibration. His strength comes not from dominating the conversation, but from observing what others miss. He listens to understand, not to win. He listens with discipline, not just interest. Because clarity isn't found in more talking. It's found in fewer assumptions. This type of listening isn't just for others, it's also for yourself. When was the last time you truly listened to your own body, your breath, your inner resistance? Most people don't know what they feel because they never pause long enough to hear it. But in silence, the body speaks, the mind reveals, the heart responds. That's not cliché, that's practice. If you want to make better decisions, listen. If you want to stay grounded in chaos, listen. And if you want to build unshakable clarity, listen with your whole being. Try this today. The next time someone speaks to you, drop all inner commentary. Don't try to fix, advise, or relate. Just receive fully, and notice how much more you understand. The words may be the same, but your perception will change. You'll begin to see what's usually hidden, the tone, the tension, the truth in the pauses. And the more you train this presence, the more natural it becomes, not just in conversation, but in every moment of life. Because the world is always speaking to you, through people, through silence, through patterns and pauses and gut feelings. Most miss it. But if you can stay quiet long enough, if you can listen past the surface, past the noise, past your own ego, you'll start to hear the truth about others, about life, about yourself. And in that truth, there is clarity. In that clarity, there is power. And in that power, there is peace. But only if you're silent enough to hear it. 8. Create a sacred space for silence. If your mind is a battlefield, you need a sanctuary. Not a place to escape reality, but a space to meet it without distortion. In a noisy world, silence isn't something that happens, it's something you have to build. That space may not have walls, but it must have boundaries. Because if everything around you is chaotic, your inner calm has nowhere to land. And no clarity survives without protection. Stoic discipline starts in structure. It respects form. Even stillness must be honored with intention. You don't reach inner peace by accident, you create conditions for it to appear. That's why the Stoics practiced in private before they spoke in public. Their strength wasn't forged on the battlefield. It was sharpened in quiet moments no one saw. They knew that wisdom arrives not through the volume of life, but through the space you give it to rise. Creating a sacred space for silence is not about perfection. It's about consistency. You're telling your mind, this is where we pause, this is where we return, this is where we reset. That could be a corner of your room, a spot in your backyard, a chair by the window. What matters isn't the furniture, it's the energy. Over time, your body learns. The moment you sit there, it begins to release. Your nervous system remembers, your breathing shifts, and suddenly you're not running anymore, you're returning. And in that return, something happens. Thoughts begin to slow, reactions soften, emotional clutter starts to clear. What felt overwhelming an hour ago loses its grip. Because stillness isn't just a state of mind, it's a frequency. And when you sit long enough in silence, your whole being starts to tune itself to something deeper than anxiety, louder than fear, stronger than distraction. That's when answers come. Not from pressure, but from resonance. If your mind feels scattered, it's not because you lack discipline. It's because you haven't trained your environment to support it. Just like a soldier prepares his gear before going to war, you must prepare your space before going within. Light a candle, place a stone, keep it simple but sacred. What matters is the ritual. That small signal to your brain, we're not in fight mode, we're in focus. And this isn't just about calm, it's about clarity. The kind of clarity that helps you see through noise, handle pressure, and choose wisely. Every strong decision starts from a centered mind. And a centered mind is hard to find in a world that never stops shouting. That's why this space matters. It's not a luxury, it's a weapon. It's how you protect your attention, your values, your energy. Don't wait for life to give you peace. Create the space where peace knows how to find you. That's Stoic in action, proactive stillness. You don't react to chaos, you meet it from a place it can't reach. Because when you have a sanctuary, the world no longer pulls you in every direction. You respond from the center, not the edge. Start small, 5 minutes, same place, same time. Let it become a rhythm. Let it become part of your identity. Not something you do, but who you are. The one who returns to silence, the one who protects the signal, the one who listens inward before speaking outward. Because the truth is, the strongest man in the room isn't the loudest. It's the one who can walk away from noise and not lose himself. It's the one who can sit in stillness and come out sharper. That's not weakness, that's control, that's presence, that's mastery. And all of it begins with space. Not given, created, guarded, owned. So build your sanctuary, make it sacred. And in that space, let silence teach you who you truly are. 9. Manifestation through vibrational stillness. You don't get what you want, you get what you are. That's the law no one teaches, but life keeps proving. You can repeat affirmations, write goals, chase results, but if your internal state doesn't match the outcome you desire, nothing flows. Because manifestation isn't about effort, it's about alignment. And alignment only happens when your mind is silent enough to receive the signal, not just broadcast it. This is where vibrational stillness comes in. Not just silence in sound, but silence in resistance. When your body is tense, your thoughts are loud, and your emotions are scattered, you send out mixed signals. You're saying, I want peace, while vibrating anxiety. Saying, I trust, while radiating desperation. The universe doesn't respond to words, it responds to frequency. And your frequency is clearest when you're still. In that stillness, your nervous system shifts. Your mind stops grasping, your breath slows. You enter coherence, where your thoughts, emotions, and energy begin to speak the same language. This is where true manifestation begins. Not by chasing, not by forcing, but by becoming a clear, calm vessel for what you seek to enter. The Stoics might not have used the word vibration, but they lived the principle. They spoke of being in harmony with nature, aligning with logos, the rational structure of the universe. To them, wisdom was not about control. It was about resonance, about becoming so internally grounded that you flow with the current of life, not against it. That's not mysticism, that's practical clarity. When you're in a state of vibrational stillness, you make better decisions, not because you know more, but because you interfere less. Your inner noise no longer clouds the message. You stop acting from fear. You stop trying to manipulate time. And that's when synchronicities begin to show up, not as coincidences, but as a natural response to your energy. The right people appear. The right ideas land. The obstacles that once blocked you start to dissolve, not because the world changed, but because you did. This doesn't mean you sit and do nothing. It means that when you do act, the action flows from a calm, focused state, not from panic. You move with precision, not chaos. You speak with clarity, not doubt. And what you send out into the world carries weight, not noise. That's the difference between trying and attracting. One is forced, the other is inevitable. Try this. Before any big decision, any important conversation, or any creative work, pause. Sit for 5 minutes in silence. Drop your agenda, drop your fears, let your breath settle. Then visualize, not as a fantasy, but as a frequency. Feel what it's like to already be in the state you desire, not chasing it, being it. And from that place, let your next move emerge, not from your mind, but from your alignment. Most people live in contradiction. They want abundance, but feel lack. Want connection, but carry walls. Want peace, but breathe like they're in battle. You can't attract what you're not willing to become. But when you become still, when you clear the internal clutter, when you shift from craving to allowing, you start to match the rhythm of what you desire. You don't have to yell at the universe to be heard. You just have to be tuned to the right station. That's what vibrational stillness is. Not absence of action, presence of alignment. And once you touch that state, even for a moment, you realize most of your struggle came from being out of tune, not out of time. You weren't blocked, you were just noisy. And now that the noise is gone, everything starts to move again. Not because you pushed harder, but because you finally stepped out of the way. So the next time life feels stuck, don't fight harder, don't scream louder. Be still, align, and let it come to you. Because what's meant for you has always been listening. It was just waiting for the silence to recognize your voice. Stillness is not an escape. It is a return to who you are beneath the noise, beneath the stress, beneath the constant demand to be more, do more, prove more. Everything you seek, clarity, focus, emotional resilience, even manifestation, flows not from force, but from alignment. And alignment begins with silence. Throughout this journey, we've explored how silence strengthens presence, sharpens intuition, and invites abundance. You've seen that real guidance doesn't shout, it whispers. You've discovered that your breath is your anchor, your sanctuary is your weapon, and your stillness is your power. This is not theory. This is practical Stoic wisdom, tested by time, grounded in clarity, and available to you at any moment. But knowledge alone isn't enough. The transformation begins with daily application. Whether it's 5 minutes in the morning or a moment of pause before reacting, your ability to cultivate inner silence will shape the way you lead, love, and live. In a world addicted to speed, stillness is your competitive edge. It protects your energy. It clears your path. It helps you move, not in panic, but with purpose. So today, I invite you to create that space. Guard it. Step into it. Let your breath slow. Let your thoughts soften. And let that quiet presence guide you back to yourself. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes. Eventually, silence won't just be something you do, it will be something you are. And if this practice has already shifted something inside you, I encourage you to share your story in the comments below. Let others know they're not alone. Because in sharing, we strengthen the silence between us. And that's where true connection begins.